Thank you for tuning in to Xposure TV. I'm your host, DVDJ Rain, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Nancy from the ACLU. Thank you. Welcome back to Xposure TV. I'm your host, DVDJ Rain, and I'm sitting here with Nancy from the ACLU. Nancy, how are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
Good. Before we get into kind of talking about what you have going on with the ACLU and the Hip Hop Summit, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Wow. So I'm not used to doing this, but sure. I actually was living in Melbourne, Florida, many years ago, and was very active volunteering in the women's rights movement. And from that, I began working for a national organization called the Feminist Majority Foundation. And so I was fortunate enough, you know, like a lot of people, to get engaged in a movement, and I learned so much in those first few years volunteering. And then was able to come on board with this national organization, again, working for women's rights, working with communities all over the country to push back on extremism, and working specifically with women's physicians who were being targeted by violence.
I got you. Now, I know that we talked earlier, and you said you're originally, well, you lived in Miami for 23 years.
Yes.
So what brought you here?
So I actually, my work, working around women's rights issues, brought me to Jackson as early as 1992.
Okay.
And I've been in and out of Mississippi for many years, and actually had developed a whole community here while I was still traveling and based out of Miami. And got to know the folks at the ACLU of Mississippi, and one day received a call from the executive director who let me know that they were creating a new position as program director, and you know, she really wanted me to come up. So here I am, 2.5 years later, and I'm really excited to be here. 2.5
years. So as program director, kind of give me an idea of like what your day-to-day activities are with the ACLU.
Sure. So my responsibilities are to ensure that people around the state of Mississippi, and we are a statewide affiliate, we don't just work in Jackson, is to ensure that every Mississippian has an opportunity to understand their constitutional rights. And essentially the ACLU of Mississippi works with communities, we work with individuals, through organizing, through public policy, and also through litigation. And so we have several different areas that we work in: criminal justice reform, and women's rights, and then our largest project and campaign here in the state is our youth justice work.
Okay. As far as like your ongoing projects within the community, what's kind of at the forefront of the ACLU?
Well, at the forefront, absolutely, as I said, is the youth justice work. We work to end the school-to-prison pipeline. It's terminology used nationally, and basically breaking it down is just it's a term to explain these zero-tolerance policies that originally were created to protect our students when some really bad things were happening in the schools. These laws were created on the federal level, and over the years, states and then local school districts have brought these zero-tolerance policies down and increased them, which essentially is, in essence, criminalizing our youth.
Right.
And so we're seeing students being sent to detention center for cussing in class. I mean, adults don't even go to jail for cussing.
Right.
And a lot of normal youth behavior, while it's not attractive, students are being criminalized and being introduced to the criminal justice life. And what we know is while students begin to get suspended and sent to detention centers and alternative schools, the likelihood that they will graduate begins to decrease. The other thing that we know is that zero tolerance policies, without a question, mostly affect black and brown students. And so we can see in some school districts where discipline process may be applied differently as to whether a student is white or black or brown. And so working with, you know, disenfranchised communities, with teachers, with parents, and then also working with youth to find their voice and take their place at the table where decisions are being made about them.
So do you guys actually go to the schools and talk to the students there? What exactly, what's the process?
So we have several different levels of work that we do. In reaching out to students, we work through our partner organizations around the state, and we also, through our litigation, some of the lawsuits that we've had to file, have partnered with communities to then broaden beyond litigation for policy change, to help communities organize and create campaigns to build leadership among the youth and also among the parents. We also work with parents and teachers. We train them on, we teach them what their students' rights are and what the disciplinary process is, what the due process is, and helping folks understand essentially their constitutional rights. And then we have a network of those people that are trained that now go back into their community and work with other parents. Okay. So we're trying to create this web, this network, because, you know, the more people that we can inform, you know, the better chance we have at saving some of our students.
So it's safe to say, like, the parents are really kind of embracing the mission that you have, like, with their kids and passing it on to their own communities.
Yes.
So it's kind of like they're relaying your work for you within their own system at home, which is like the ultimate goal, correct?
That is absolutely the ultimate goal. So that, you know, everything we do has a greater impact than the one individual that we're working with at the time. Absolutely.
Now, tell me, what do you feel is like the biggest obstacle that you guys face, like trying to achieve your goals?
Well, you know, I think, as with everything, we have obstacles in working with administration, given that the ACLU of Mississippi has had some litigation with some of our school districts around the state, and then to turn around and attempt to work with administrators in that same school district makes it tough for us. And I'm going to be clear, we would prefer to work on the front end with administrators, teachers, parents, and students to correct policies that are violating individuals' rights, as opposed to having to come in on the other side and litigate. So I would say that's our #1 obstacle. And then just being a small staff. Our office, we have 2 attorneys and 8 staff people, and we cover the entire state. So, you know, in Mississippi it takes 3 hours to get anywhere from Jackson. So we do a lot of traveling. The youth justice team that I work a lot with, we travel, you know, I mean, we basically work 6-day work weeks. Last weekend we had a 7-day week and did 4 events over the weekend. So we stay busy, but, you know, it's so important to let folks know that we're here and who we are. There are a lot of misconceptions about us.
Right. Well, we're going to take a small break, run out of time, but we are going to find out everything there is that needs to be known about the ACLU and you and what you have going on.
Great.
So make sure you stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Xposure TV is sponsored and produced by Peaches of On Location TV. If you would like more inquiries about Mississippi ACLU, log on to www.aclu-ms.org or call 601-354-3408 or write to ACLU of Mississippi, P.O. Box 2242, Jackson, Mississippi 39225. Xposure TV is sponsored in part by Magoo's Grill, 824 South State Street, Jackson, Mississippi 39201.
Deftel DJs.
Deftel DJs.
Exposure TV, Tuesdays 6 p.m. and Saturdays 6:30 a.m. on Comcast Cable, Channel 18, Pad Network.
Welcome back to Xposure TV. I'm your host, DVDJ Rain, and we're sitting here with my guest, Nancy from the ACLU. Nancy, we were talking earlier off camera about some of the services that you guys offer to the youth. Tell me about some of the involvement with the youth that you have.
Okay, so specifically working with younger people, as I said, we reach out to organizations and other partners across the state to gather young people. This year we went to 5 different communities for a youth leadership meeting. It was a day-long workshop essentially talking about issues in these students' communities and what are some of the resolutions, what are some of the actions that they can take to make change and have a voice in it. So
now, let me ask you this real quick before I forget. What can you say was one of the biggest issues that the youth have expressed?
Well, I want to say this because while there are many folks in the state working with youth, one of the things that's most interesting when I get into a group of young people, the first question I ask is, how many of you believe that you have the same constitutional rights, the same rights as your teacher, your parents, your grandmother? Rarely will more than a few people raise their hands. And so we're beginning there. That students don't really understand that they're actually, full human beings in our communities, and that they do have and deserve all the rights as everyone else. Right. And so starting from that point, many times, we hear from students complaints about being restricted on what they can wear at school. And to, it's an interesting debate among adults, but youth feel like, their freedom of expression is being quelled in that moment. Now, some of the young people like it, but some of the students feel like, that would be a good campaign, that they deserve to dress individually, and so it's interesting to see where they go with their concerns. We always end up having discussions about in the school districts that have law enforcement in their offices. Students are very concerned and often frightened when they come in and do these lockdowns. Police just show up at our middle schools and our high schools with canines, drug-sniffing canines. They shut the school down. All the kids have to stay in their rooms, and they begin to search the school. And what we know is that these lockdowns are not necessarily because there's been a huge drug ring going on. Really, essentially, it would appear as though these episodes are, sometimes they catch the occasional student, often they catch and find nothing. And so it terrorizes the student. What's interesting is many of them say, it's 2 hours that we don't get to study because they have to close all the classroom doors and stay in their rooms. And so it really creates the environment of prison. And so we do hear a lot of concerns from young people about police in schools, about, 8th graders being arrested, handcuffed and paraded down the hallway for getting in a schoolyard fight. I mean, when I was young, a few years ago, we didn't go to jail for that. We went to the principal's office. But schools are really shifting into, you know, instead of, you know, creating a process where we work with our young students, yeah, give detention, you know. We're moving much more into arrest, suspensions, expulsions, and again, you know, we're ending up in these detention centers, which are horrific. They're just like prisons, and offer nothing to a young person while they're there. So those are a lot of the things that we're hearing. And then students also are annoyed that schools are choosing not to teach real information about sex education. You know, we had a 10-year-old at the summit last year stand up and say, when we asked, what are your concerns, she said, I'm tired of teachers not telling us the truth. My friends are getting pregnant. That was from the mouth of a child. So, you know, students are so articulate, they're so smart, and, you know, we have to stop talking for them, stand beside them, and lift them up and let them start speaking, because I think folks would really be amazed.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, back to the services you have to offer the youth. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
That's okay.
that was on my mind, and, you know, I mean, kind of wanted to know
Sure.
from the youth's point of view, but go back to what is actually being done for the youth from the ACLU.
Okay. So yeah, we do these regional meetings where we go into a community and we have students for an entire day of workshops. We talk about the issues. Moving out of that, often we will follow up with students who had expressed their concerns and helping them to create campaigns. We teach basic organizing skills, organizing 101, you know, define the problem, you know, who are your allies, what is the solution, and how do you create a campaign. We also do Know Your Rights forums for students. We talk to them about how to stay safe and how to assert their rights when encountering police, and also when they are in trouble in school. Essentially, we tell students in school at this point, you have the right to ask for an adult, just like an adult has the right to ask for an attorney. We're really encouraging our students to tell the principal or the police officer, I would like to have my guardian or my parent in the room before we discuss this. We're very concerned about the, you know, over-policing of our schools, and when it's a 12-year-old student with, you know, possibly disciplinary issues on their record against the principal, you know, whose word are you going to take? And so we want students to be safe and have those conversations with another adult in the room, because, again, we're concerned about the push-out that we're seeing through these zero-tolerance policies.
Right. Now, I know one event that you guys are really looking forward to, and that's the Hip Hop Summit.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So all of the work that I just talked about really culminates into the summer at this one huge event called the Hip Hop Summit, and we also have a parent advocate conference at the same time. It is just a wonderful experience for both parents and students. This year we're going to be working on specific campaign training and preparing students and parents for a huge mobilization in January. We have artists that come in and also teach not just social justice workshops, but we also teach students how to become a DJ, how to rap and rhyme, how to create poetry, how to dance. It's super exciting. Last year we made Mississippi history. We had 600 folks gathered to push back on school-to-prison pipelines. So we're super excited about this year.
So anybody can attend the summit?
Anyone can attend. Students ages 10 to 17. And then, of course, parents will be at their own separate conference. It's 2 days completely free at Millsaps College. And for more information, you're going to want to go to our website, which is www.aclu-ms.org. And there are all kinds of links on there that you can just click on if you want to volunteer, if you're a parent, or if you're a student. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, nice. Well, we're going to take a small break and be back with another organizer of yours, Miss Lyric. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck on the summit.
Thank you.
Keep me informed. Let me know how it goes.
Absolutely, we will.
Thank you.
If you would like more inquiries about Mississippi ACLU, log on to www.aclu-ms.org or call 601-354-3408 or write to ACLU of Mississippi, P.O. Box 2242, Jackson, Mississippi 39225. Xposure TV is sponsored in part by McGoo's Grill, 824 South State Street, Jackson, Mississippi 39201.
Violator All-Star DJs.
Xposure TV is sponsored and produced by Peaches of On Location TV. Xposure TV, Tuesdays 6 p.m. and Saturdays 6:30 a.m. on Comcast Cable, Channel 18, Pad Network.
Welcome back to Xposure TV. I'm your host, DVDJ Rain. We just got through talking to Nancy from the ACLU, and now we're sitting here with Lyric, one of the new organizers of the ACLU. Lyric, how are you?
I'm all right. How you doing?
Good.
Awesome.
Glad to have you on the show. Tell me, how did you become part of the ACLU?
Well, I've been working with the ACLU doing different contracting things because, you know, I do other stuff. Mm-hmm. So I've been seeing them work for about 3 years, and I really, you know, I commend them on the work that they were doing, and so I would donate as much time as I could to the community.
Right.
And I kind of like, last year they had the Hip Hop Summit, which they have every year. This year is the 5th one. I was there as an artist. I was performing and emceeing the conference. So it was cool. So I got to see all the kids and interact with everybody. And once I found out they had a position open, I kind of begged for it. So that's how I got here. I've always been involved in like civil rights and things like that because I'm from a civil rights city, coming from Macomb. So we have a lot of stuff going on there in the movement. So I've always been involved in it on hands off, but now I got more of a hands-on thing with ACLU. I
got you. Now tell me about your involvement as an artist with the ACLU versus your role now with them.
Okay. Before I would just attend an event and like you know, in the artist world, I'd make an appearance, or I would host it, or I would perform a song or something like that, or some poetry for them. But now I'm more of being a youth organizer gets me more hands-on with actually directing a program for the kids, kind of like I can build it from the ground up with the kids, and I'm actually being able to be around people like Nancy and the other organizers there where I can learn more and able to get in the community. I can learn more of the way that they approach it so that I can put like my kind of zany hip-hop approach along with the ACLU's approach and kind of get some really positive things done.
Right.
So it's more of a business, it's more of a business level than just performing. I'm doing more work in the community.
So we were talking about the Hip Hop Summit earlier. What exactly is going to be your role within that event?
Well, this year I have many hats for the Hip Hop Summit this year. Before, like I said, I just attended and kind of, you know, played along. But now I'm more of a, being an organizer, I'm in an organizing role. So I'm finding vendors and finding tablers and finding volunteers. So I'm kind of helping put it together.
Right.
So it's more like I have more responsibility this year than I did last year, and I have a feeling I'm going to be there more hours this year, like all of them. So it's like I don't get to run in and run out like before. It's going to be more of me staying and kind of planting down with the kids and actually having more information to give them as far as social justice information. Like before, I could tell them a lot of stuff about, you know, music and art, but now I can tell them more things that they'll be able to use in their lives.
Right. So what would you say was like one of the biggest things you've kind of taken away from the ACLU as far as like dealing with the youth?
I guess one of the biggest things I've taken from the ACLU is actually learning and seeing them mobilize the youth. It's kind of hard to get the kids to do something all together at one time in this day and age, I guess you could say, because they're the movement is so fast, everything is so fast paced, and they a lot of the times they'll look over their constitutional rights and their civil issues because they're on to the next thing. Like something happens to them, it happens, and they're already like, oh well, this happened to me, and they're on to something else. But no one ever touches the issues. But with the ACLU, I kind of see them coming in, showing the kids which direction to go in and what they have the ability to do. So that helps me with any time where I'm working with kids. I got a lot of kids around me all the time, so it's getting me more comfortable with that.
So while you guys are in preparation for the Hip Hop Summit, you know, what type of help are you guys looking for as far as volunteers go to help with the event or any of the other things that the ACLU has going on?
Right. Well, we have a lot of programs going on right now. We have, of course, the Hip Hop Summit where we're looking for volunteers. We're going to be looking for 18 years old and older, most of them, because there's a lot of responsibility. We have a lot of kids there, and we want to have some good, responsible adults there watching over them because safety is a big issue we have. So we want to make sure that we get some good volunteers in. We can take groups or individuals who want to volunteer. We need a lot. So, I mean, if they just want to volunteer like 20 or 30 of them at a time, that's cool. We got to get as many volunteers as we can for that one. We're also looking for parents, parents to sign their kids up and parents to attend, because at the same time we're doing the Hip Hop Summit, we're doing a parent advocacy conference at the same time. So while the kids are getting kind of mobilized and to make action in their communities as little people, then the adults are kind of getting training to be able to push them and elevate them up and support them with what they're doing.
Right.
So now we're going to be looking for a lot of people who really want to get involved. We can, if you want to get involved, we're looking for you, but we don't want it to be anything that you're making yourself do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want the people who are really interested in helping these kids and making these events successful.
Now, for the people that are interested, that want to come and help, like where would they go to get in contact? Who do they contact, or is it, you know, the website? What was the website again?
Yeah, we have ACLU-MS.org is the website for ACLU, and they can get in touch with us from there. It has links for the Hip Hop Summit. It has information on all the programs we're doing. It has information, but if they want to volunteer, I would tell them to go to email David, David Denny, who is another youth organizer.
Spell that last name.
Denny, D-E-N-N-E-Y. Okay. So it'll be D-D-E-N-N-E-Y at ACLU-MS.org. Okay. They can write him and they can tell him they're interested in volunteering, and he'll get them information on where they need to go or the next meeting they need to attend. Okay.
Is there a Facebook? Do you guys have the, you know, the typical Twitter?
Oh yeah.
Any of that?
Well, we have the Twitter, which is at ACLU_MS. So that's the ACLU of Mississippi Twitter. And then on Facebook, you can find us at Mississippi Hip Hop Summit. So it's MS Hip Hop Summit. That's pretty cool. Also, when you search that Hip Hop Summit, the event will come up as the 5th Annual Mississippi Youth Hip Hop Conference / Parent Advocacy Conference. So you'll get both of those on the event. It'll pop up.
When is the summit?
It's July 21st and 22nd.
July 21st, 22nd. All right. Well, thank you so much. I know there's one more thing that you need to talk about before we go, and that was a new project that you have.
Oh, my new project.
Your new project.
Yeah.
You guys think it in there now.
Yeah, you know, I'm a rapper. I try to go on low key when I'm with the ACLU. Yeah, I'm doing a new project. If you know me from before as Lyric, you know, I've elevated the Queen Lyric. This is my new look. I'm doing a more socially conscious project for kids, kind of veered towards the communities, kind of liberating and trying to join up the kids with the adults and the musicians, with the politicians and all that kind of stuff working together. So it'll be coming. I'm starting to work with Fifth Child. A lot of people know Fifth Child, what he's done. So I'm starting to work with him tomorrow and on throughout until the end of the year to finish up a project that I can hopefully get to Jacktown soon.
Nice. Nice. Well, thank you so much for all the information.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Awesome.
Make sure that you tune in next week for another episode of Xposure.